Imagine standing on a lonely island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, so far away from any continent that it feels like the very edge of the earth. The air is still. The waves crash gently in the distance, and scattered across the green grasslands, enormous stone figures rise up from the ground. They tower above you, with solemn faces and long noses, their eyes once painted to stare fiercely across the horizon. Some of them weigh more than an entire Boeing airplane. Others are buried up to their shoulders, hiding their secrets beneath the soil. These are the Moai statues of Easter Island, silent giants carved centuries ago by a people whose story is still shrouded in mystery. More than 800 of these monuments stand across the island, a place so remote that you can't help but wonder, why would a small, isolated society spend generations building colossal stone figures? How did they move them without wheels, without cranes, without iron? And perhaps the biggest question of all, what do they truly mean? Easter Island, known to its native people as Rapa Nui, is one of the most mysterious places on Earth. It lies about 2,300 miles west of Chile and more than 1,200 miles from the nearest inhabited island. It is literally in the middle of nowhere. When the first European explorers arrived in 1722, on Easter Sunday, they were stunned to see giant statues scattered across the island. Even then, the mystery was clear. These enormous figures, some standing over 30 feet tall, were far too heavy for the small population to have moved easily. And yet, somehow, they had. But here's where it gets even stranger. Those statues, which most people think of as just heads, are not just heads. Archaeologists have discovered that many Moai actually have full bodies buried beneath the ground, torsos, hands, even carvings on their backs. Over time, soil and ash buried them, hiding the fact that these were not simply giant heads but complete stone figures. Why did the islanders bury them? Or did nature do it for them? The answer is still debated. Let's go back in time. Around 1200 AD, Polynesian explorers set sail across the Pacific Ocean. These were some of the greatest navigators in history, guided not by compasses or maps, but by the stars, the winds, and the waves. They settled islands across the Pacific, from Hawaii to New Zealand. And somewhere along the way, they discovered Rapa Nui. Isolated but fertile, the island became their new home. Over time, the population grew, society developed into clans, and with it came the desire to honor their ancestors and leaders. The result? The Moai statues. Each statue was carved from volcanic rock, taken from a quarry at a place called Rano Raraku. If you visit the quarry today, it looks like a giant workshop frozen in time. Half-finished statues still lie there, abandoned as if the workers simply walked away one day and never returned. Some are still attached to the bedrock, never freed. Others lie in ditches or slopes, half-carved, waiting for completion that never came. What happened? Why were they abandoned? Now here's the mystery of transport. Imagine carving a statue that weighs 80 tons, taller than a 2-story building, and then needing to move it miles across the island, through hills and valleys, to place it on a ceremonial platform near the coast. How would you do it without wheels, without horses, without cranes? One popular theory suggests that the statues were dragged on wooden sledges or rollers. But here's the problem. Easter Island wasn't full of forests. In fact, studies show that the island once had palm trees, but centuries of cutting them down for building, firewood, and possibly statue transport led to deforestation. If they used trees to move the statues, they may have literally cut down their own survival. Another theory says the statues were walked upright. Imagine dozens of people with ropes tied around the head and base, rocking the statue side to side, step by step, making it appear as if the giant stone figure was walking across the land. In 2012, archaeologists actually tested this theory with a replica Moai. With 3 teams pulling ropes, the statue rocked and shuffled forward like a giant zombie. It worked. Could this have been how the islanders moved them? If so, It changes how we see their genius, not brute force, but brilliant engineering and teamwork. But even if they could move them, why build them in the first place? What was the purpose? Some researchers believe the Moai represented powerful ancestors. They were carved to honor chiefs or important leaders, and when placed on platforms called ahu, they were thought to embody spiritual power, watching over the people. Their backs often face inland, as if guarding the villages with their gaze fixed on the land they protected. Others argue the statues were symbols of clan rivalry. Different groups competed to build bigger and more impressive Moai, showing their status and power. The larger the statue, the greater the honor. But this competition may have driven the island's resources to the breaking point. If true, the Moai are both a triumph of human creativity and a warning of what happens when societies push too far. And then there's the astronomical theory. Some believe the Moai were aligned with the stars or solstices, marking important times for planting and harvesting. Could they have served as giant calendars? Were they more than just monuments? Were they tools for survival? The story doesn't end there. At some point in the island's history, many of the Moai were toppled over. Some lie face down in the dirt, others broken into pieces. Why would the islanders destroy their own sacred statues? One explanation is that it happened during civil wars, as rival clans fought each other and pushed over each other's monuments. Another theory suggests it was connected to the collapse of their society, when food became scarce and faith in the old ways began to crumble. And then there are the legends. Some Rapa Nui people say the Moai had mana, a spiritual energy that allowed them to move. Others whisper that the statues walked on their own, guided by the power of the priests. Is it possible that behind the myths lies a memory of the clever rope-walking technique? Or was there something more, something we still don't understand? Think about this. These statues were built by a society completely isolated from the rest of the world. No outside help, no iron tools, no animals to carry heavy loads, and yet they created monuments so impressive that they rival the pyramids of Egypt and Stonehenge in England. It makes you wonder, how much knowledge have we lost through time? Today, archaeologists continue to study Easter Island, using drones, ground-penetrating radar, and 3D scanning to uncover new details. They've found that the statues weren't just random. They were placed in locations connected to water sources, suggesting they may have played a role in marking vital resources. Imagine a society carving sacred guardians to protect the very wells and streams they depended on. But still, the bigger questions remain unanswered. Why did they invest so much in building statues, when survival itself was so challenging? Why did they topple them later? And what happened to the once thriving Rapa Nui society? When Europeans arrived, the population was small, the land stripped of trees, and famine had taken its toll. Was this a collapse caused by overuse of resources, or was it worsened by outside contact, disease, and slavery brought by foreigners? The truth may be a tragic mix of both. The Moai stand today not just as stone figures, but as puzzles from the past. They remind us of human creativity, ambition, and mystery. They make us ask questions about ourselves, our relationship with nature, our drive to build, and the legacy we leave behind. So I ask you, what do you think? Were the Moai statues spiritual guardians, astronomical markers, or simply symbols of power? Could they hold secrets about a lost way of life, or even a lost chapter of human history? And perhaps the strangest question of all, why do we still feel such a connection to them, even across oceans and centuries? If you enjoyed this journey into the mysteries of Easter Island, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more explorations into the world's unsolved history, and share your own theories in the comments below. Because in the end, the Moai aren't just about the past, they're about the questions that still shape our curiosity today.